Have you ever wondered why so many souls who once knew God simply drift away in silence? Not with shouts or rebellion, but with a cold detachment that freezes faith in the chest. There's a forgotten truth that few dare to face. It's not God who drifts away from us. It's us who close the door of our hearts and then blame His absence for the cold we feel. Listen now to what the world doesn't want you to know. Trust doesn't break because God failed. Trust breaks because our soul surrendered to the lies that whisper He is not enough. Padre Pio used to say that God never abandons those who trust in Him, but we can abandon that trust when pain screams louder than faith. Understand this. At this very moment, millions of people carry silent wounds that have poisoned their relationship with the Creator. Not visible wounds, but scars on the soul that make trust wither like a plant without water. And the most tragic thing is that many of these souls don't even realize they've drifted away. They simply stopped waiting. They stopped believing. They stopped trusting. Today, you will discover the 10 invisible reasons that make hearts close to God without a single word being spoken. 10 silent prisons that keep souls captive in bitterness, doubt, resentment. But more importantly, you will discover how prayer breaks each of these chains and restores the trust that seemed lost forever. Perhaps you recognize yourself in some of these reasons. Perhaps you've faced suffering without understanding why. Perhaps you've prayed without receiving an answer. Perhaps you've witnessed hypocrisy within the church itself. Perhaps you've lost a loved one and questioned where God was at that moment. If any of these wounds are in your heart, you are not alone. Padre Pio faced doubts, sufferings, and misunderstandings even within the church. But he never lost his trust because he discovered something few know. Prayer doesn't just ask God, it rebuilds the bridge between the wounded heart and the merciful heart of the Father. What you are about to discover is not spiritual theory. It's medicine for a wounded soul. It's light for a darkened heart. It's hope for those who thought they had lost the ability to trust. Because when you understand the reasons that destroy trust, you also discover the keys that restore it completely. The first poison that kills trust in God is suffering without explanation. When pain invades your life without warning, when the diagnosis arrives like a bomb, when tragedy destroys your plans, your soul screams a desperate question, "Why me, God?" And the silence that follows this question seems to confirm that He doesn't care. The second is divine silence in the face of your despair. You pray, you beg, you plead for an answer, a sign, anything to prove He is listening. But the heavens seem like bronze, and your voice echoes in the void. Your faith begins to doubt if there is truly anyone on the other side. The third poison is the absence of intervention in crucial moments. You see evil triumphing, innocence suffering, injustice reigning, while you await God's intervention. But the intervention doesn't come, and your soul concludes that either He cannot or will not act. The fourth is the hypocrisy you witness within the church itself. Leaders who preach love but practice manipulation. Religious figures who speak of humility but live in arrogance. And you think, if God's own representatives are false, how can I trust Him? The fifth poison is the devastating loss of someone you love. Death has taken your father, your mother, your child, your spouse. And you cannot understand how a God of love allows hearts to be shattered in this way. The pain is so great that you prefer not to believe than to believe in a God who permits such agony. The sixth is the conflict between faith and science that confuses your mind. You study, you discover, you learn about the universe and its laws, and your reason questions if there is still room for God in what science explains. Faith seems like the domain of the ignorant, and you no longer want to be ignorant. The seventh poison is the fear that paralyzes your trust. Fear of the future, fear of death, fear of the unknown. Instead of running to God, you flee from him because his will seems threatening. You prefer to trust yourself rather than surrender control to someone you cannot see. These are just 7 of the 10 poisons that destroy trust. But listen to this. Each one of them can be neutralized by prayer. Padre Pio knew that prayer not only speaks to God, it heals the soul poisoned by doubt. The 8th poison that destroys your trust is dashed expectations that cut like a razor. You promised God your faithfulness in exchange for blessings. You tithed, you prayed, you served, expecting prosperity, healing, protection. But the blessing didn't come. The job didn't materialize. The healing didn't happen. And your heart closes because you feel God broke the deal. The 9th poison is pride disguised as independence. You grow, you achieve, you prosper, and you slowly convince yourself that you no longer need divine help. Your mind prides itself on its own accomplishments and forgets that all ability comes from the Creator. You stop giving thanks, stop asking, stop trusting because you believe you are enough on your own. The 10th and most devastating poison is disbelief that infiltrates like a silent virus. Small doubts that begin as grains of sand and become mountains. Does God really exist? Does prayer really work? Am I wasting my time with these spiritual things? Doubt grows until it completely suffocates faith. Now look into your heart and be honest. How many of these poisons have you tasted? How many of these wounds are open in your soul? How many times have you drifted away from God without even realizing you were drifting away? You've carried the weight of suffering without understanding its purpose. You've screamed into the void, thinking God doesn't listen. You've waited for miracles that didn't come in the way you wanted. You've been scandalized by human imperfection within the church. You've mourned losses that tore your chest apart. You've questioned everything you believed. You've feared what God might allow in your life. You've been disappointed when he didn't meet your expectations. You've taken pride in your own achievements. You've doubted if it's worth continuing to trust. But listen to this truth that can change everything. Each of these poisons has an antidote. And that antidote is called genuine prayer. Not mechanical prayer, not self-serving prayer, not desperate prayer. Prayer that rebuilds the bridge between your wounded heart and the merciful heart of God. Padre Pio discovered that when you pray with absolute sincerity, you don't just speak to God. You allow him to heal your wounds, clarify your doubts, strengthen your faith, and restore your trust. Prayer transforms poison into medicine. Now understand how prayer destroys each poison that has poisoned your trust. When you bring your suffering to God in prayer, you don't receive explanations. You receive consolation. You discover that he suffered before you, and that your pain has an eternal purpose, even when you cannot see it. When you pray in the face of apparent divine silence, you learn to hear his voice in the silence. God speaks through the peace that invades your heart, through the doors that open, through the people who appear at the right moment. Your answer is coming, but not necessarily in the way you expect. When you pray asking for intervention and it seems not to come, you discover that God's greatest intervention is in your soul. He changes you so that you can face what cannot be changed. He gives strength, wisdom, patience to cross the valley without being defeated. When you pray even in the face of hypocrisy you witness, you separate God from the imperfect men who represent him. You find God directly, without flawed intermediaries. Your relationship becomes personal, intimate, unshakable. When you pray carrying the pain of loss, you discover that those who have departed are not lost. They are simply in another place. Prayer becomes a bridge between you and those you love. Longing transforms into hope of reunion. When you pray in the face of the conflict between faith and science, you discover that God created both faith and intelligence. Science and faith do not contradict each other. They complement each other. You can be intelligent and a believer at the same time. When you pray with your fears, You surrender to God what you cannot control and receive back the courage to face the unknown. Fear doesn't disappear, but it loses its power to paralyze your life. When you pray with your dashed expectations, you learn that God's plans are greater than yours. What you thought was denial was redirection. What seemed like delay was preparation. When you pray acknowledging your dependence, you break the pride that separated you from God. Humility is strength, not weakness. Recognizing that you need God is wisdom, not defeat. When you pray even with your doubts, you discover that questioning is not a sin. It's a path to deeper faith. God is not afraid of your questions. He has the answers your soul needs to hear. Prayer is not a last resort. It's a first resort. It's preventive medicine for a healthy soul and curative medicine for a wounded soul. Now you will learn the daily ritual that rebuilds broken trust and strengthens threatened trust. Padre Pio practiced this principle every day, the prayer of total surrender. It's not an ordinary prayer, it's a trust-rebuilding ritual. First step, honest confession. Kneel before God and confess exactly where your trust has been shaken. Hide nothing, soften nothing. Say, Lord, I doubted when. Lord, I rebelled when. Lord, I drifted away when. Total honesty is the foundation of restored trust. Second step, surrender of wounds. Take each wound that has poisoned your trust and place it in God's hands. Lord, I surrender my suffering without explanation. I surrender my feeling of abandonment. I surrender my rebellion against injustice. I surrender my pain from loss. Let it all go. Let Him carry the weight. Third step, declaration of dependence. Acknowledge that you need Him for everything. Lord, without you I can do nothing. Without you I get lost. Without you I despair. I need you more than the air I breathe. This declaration breaks the pride that distances you from God. Fourth step, request for renewed faith. Lord, increase my faith. Heal my disbelief. Restore my trust. Teach me to trust even when I don't understand. Padre Pio knew that faith is a gift that is asked for and cultivated. Fifth step, commitment to perseverance. Lord, I promise not to give up trusting even when the poisons return. I promise to return to you whenever I drift away. I promise to pray even when I don't feel like it. Commitment seals the decision. Sixth step, anticipatory gratitude. Give thanks for the blessings you don't yet see, for the answers that haven't arrived, for the victories that haven't happened. Thank you for the healing that is coming. Thank you for the provision that is coming. Thank you for the miracle that is coming. Anticipatory gratitude is the ultimate expression of trust. Practice this ritual for 21 consecutive days. Why 21? Because it's the time needed to break old patterns and create new spiritual habits. Don't skip a single day. Don't shorten any step. Your soul is being rebuilt brick by brick. If resistance arises, and it will, remember, it's not weakness to doubt. It's weakness to remain in doubt. It's not a sin to question. It's a sin to live in disbelief. It's not a problem to be afraid. It's a problem to be controlled by fear. Your trust is being restored right now. Do you feel it? The ice in your chest is melting. Hope is being reborn. Faith is returning. You now know the 10 poisons that destroy trust in God and the powerful antidote that neutralizes them. They are no longer hidden secrets, but revealed truths that can completely transform your relationship with the Creator. What you do with this knowledge will determine whether you remain a prisoner of distrust or become free through restored faith. Many people will hear this message and continue to carry the poisons in their hearts. They will continue to blame God for suffering, interpret His silence as abandonment, expecting Him to prove Himself through spectacular miracles. They choose to remain wounded instead of seeking the healing that is within reach. Other people will understand the message, but will not practice the restoration ritual. Knowledge without action cures no one. Knowing about the antidote doesn't remove the poison. You have to take the medicine, not just know about it. But you have chosen differently. You have chosen to honestly face the wounds that have distanced your heart from God. You have chosen to surrender each poison that has envenomed your trust. You have chosen to declare your dependence instead of playing the strong one. You have chosen to trust even without fully understanding. You have chosen to persevere even when feelings fluctuate. Your trust has been restored. Your heart has been healed. Your faith has been renewed. You have discovered that God never abandoned you. It was you who had closed your eyes to His constant presence. Now you see with clarity. He was always there, waiting for you to come home. From today onward, when suffering comes, you will know it has purpose. When divine silence seems deafening, you will hear His voice in the silence. When expectations are dashed, you will trust that His plans are better. When doubt whispers lies, you will proclaim truths. Now take a prophetic action. If this message has restored your trust in God, comment, "Jesus, I trust in you," to witness your renewed faith and encourage other wounded souls. If you felt the ice in your heart melt during this revelation, leave your like so that more people can find healing for broken trust. Share this video with someone you know who has lost trust in God. Perhaps you will be an instrument of restoration in the life of someone who needs to rediscover that it's worth trusting. Subscribe to this channel if you want to continue receiving revelations that heal spiritual wounds and strengthen your faith. Padre Pio still has much to teach about how to live in absolute trust, even in the most difficult times. May God completely restore your trust. May you never again doubt His love for you, and may your renewed faith be a living testament that it is always worth trusting in God. Amen.